Welcome to the CVT family. Today we're going to walk through how to build and assemble the Mount Shasta Summit Line Series 10. So the first thing when you receive your tent, if you've had it shipped to you, you want to make sure before it comes off the truck that you inspect the box, make sure there's no damage, make sure everything is correct before you take the tent off the truck. After you get it off the truck and everything is good, you are going to want to find a nice clean flat area to put the box where you can open this thing up completely. And then you just start with go ahead and cutting off all your straps, opening up your tape, make sure you're not putting your knife in too far where you might damage the tent inside. Don't use the knife to cut down the sides of the box. Use your hands to split the box open, and we'll go ahead and do that right now. All right, then you just start with the straps. I just barely use the tip of the knife to break the tape, basically. And basically what we do here is just go ahead and split the factory corner here. Lay the box out nice and flat.
Kind of helps protect the tent too.
This way you're not getting your tent on the ground. That's a nice, clean, workable area. And then after that, you're going to want to tip the tent up on its end, so that way it's easier to access the bolts from under the floor. So the next thing you want to do is go ahead and open both doors. All your supplies for the building the tent are actually inside. So go ahead and unzip both doors.
So first we have travel cover. Goes on top of your tent as you're driving.
You have your annex floor. You have your annex walls.
You have your telescoping ladder.
Your 2 shoe bags.
You have your extension pole.
Your bag of spring rods. And your annex bag.
You have an extra fly, and you have your hardware right here.
The last thing inside is your 2 mounting rails.
So after you take everything outside of your tent, make sure that you lay it out neatly so that you can take account for everything that's in there. You should have all of the following.
So the next step is we're going to remove the protective coating from when they were doing the assembly of the floor. Basically you want to get a nice box knife and just follow the outline of the edge of the floor. On the other side there is one piece right in the middle that you just cut around. And then you don't need to push super hard, you just want to follow that outer edge of it. It really helps to have a nice sharp blade. And I use the blade just to get a corner peeled up. So this is your hardware bag. So inside you're going to find all your stakes for your annex and the overhang, your how to build it guide. All your ratcheting wrenches, you have 2 13s and a 10 ratcheting wrench, your power cable for your LED light, your 4 mounting spreader brackets, your ladder hardware, extra spare parts, and then all your nuts and bolts for all the rails, the ladder, and everything to assemble the tent. All right, now that I got all my hardware laid out, I'm going to grab the 4 1 3/4 inch M8 stainless steel bolts that have the 2 large washers on them. These are for the rails that go through the floor of the tent. All right, so now that you have the bolt, you're gonna leave 1 washer on the head of the bolt. You're gonna reach inside the tent, go under the mattress and the anti-condensation mat, and poke it on through the floor, and then install the other washer on this side before the rail goes on. So the next step, after we already have our bolts through the floor, is we're going to be installing the rail. And the first thing you want to do is take off the protective coating off the end of the rail by just sliding it off. And then you want to pop out the black end caps. Set that off to the side. And then there's a chase through the top of the rail where you're going to be placing the nut down into the rail. So that way you can allow it to slide down to where your hole is for where the bolt's going to come through the floor. I'm going to go ahead and show you how to do that now. So you just place it over the bolts, take the nut, drop it into the chase. It's going to fall down, hit the first bolt there. I just pull it out just a little bit, allow it to fall down to the next one. And then you reach inside the tent, grab the head of the bolt, and then you're going to place your finger below the nut. That way the nut only falls to your finger, and you can guide it onto the bolt, push the bolt back through, grab it, let it grab some threads, finger tighten it, and then go ahead and do the same for the top here. You're just gonna go ahead and drop the bolt back down into it, let it hit it, reach inside, back out the bolt a little bit, place the nut over the top of the bolt, finger tighten it, and then after that you just wanna do at the top here, you just want to kind of split the difference and then go ahead and snug up the bolts through the floor. Don't over tighten them, you just want them snug. So what I usually do after I'm done snugging up the bolts through the floor, I'll grab one of those sliders and a bolt that goes through it, go ahead and put them together so they're ready to go. Go ahead and slide that down through the track and just make sure that the head of this bolt on the slider does not hit the bolt that you have through the floor. And as long as you can clearly, easily make it pass without touching it, know that you're not over tight and you're not too loose.
So the next step is you're going to take your self-tapping screws and you're going to essentially screw it in where this line meets, right inside the rail. It'll prevent it from moving if your bolts and nuts ever come loose. So now that we have all 4 self-tapping screws in, we're going to go ahead and move on over to the ladder install. Okay, so next step, we're going to grab our 2-inch bolt with our washer, and there's actually 2 of these that we'll be using for the ladder bracket. So what we're going to do is we're going to put the washer on inside the tent part itself. And we're going to do the same thing with our second bolt. We're going to put the ladder bracket on, and we're just going to finger tighten up the nuts onto the bolts. That way you keep it loose. We're going to do the same thing to the other set of holes. So next, we will take this inch-long ladder bracket bolt, and we are going to essentially put it through the bracket and attach the ladder to the mounting. So I'm going to use this nylon washer, take it out, only have the metal washer in first, and then put the nylon separating the bracket from the ladder. Put the ladder on and finger tighten up that nut. So the next bracket, we're going to do the same thing. We're just going to have the bolt facing the opposite way. So have the bolt, the metal washer, and slightly put the metal bolt through and slip that nylon washer between the ladder and the bracket. And again, finger tighten up the nut onto the bolt. Next thing, you're going to take your two 13 size wrenches and you're just going to tighten up the 1-inch bolt. You don't want to do it too tight so that the ladder can't move, but just snug enough so that you can move freely. You can do the same thing to this bottom one. Once you have those on, you can then tighten up these bolts up here.
All right, so then now the next step is we're gonna simulate mounting the tent to a vehicle. So before you do that, we recommend that you go ahead and tuck in all your fabric and cinch the tent down nice and snug so that way it's not opening while you go to put it on top of the vehicle. So you just wanna reach in here, push in all your fabric, and then go ahead and use your straps on the tent to go ahead and hold it together. And you could do the straps also around the long straps, so that way they're not getting underneath the tent as you put it onto the rack. All right, so the next step is taking the tent and going onto the rack. It really helps to have more than one person to do this. It's best if you grab it from either end and then just lift at the same time and go onto the rack. All right, so the next step is pre-assemble the mounting hardware. So you need a slider, the 2-inch bolt, and then you go ahead and take the nut off and the washer off, and then you're just gonna go ahead and slide the bolt into the aluminum slider. And then we go ahead and pre-mount 4 of the plates and onto the brackets. And then you have a choice of if you have a skinny bar or a wide bar that you're mounting to. We are mounting it to a skinnier bar, so I'm gonna go ahead and use the inside holes. Go ahead and get 4 with the plates, and then the other 4 you're just gonna go ahead and leave just like this without the nut on it.
So our next step is we're gonna take these sliders and we're actually gonna slide them through the rail that we installed before. And it's actually easier to slide in both of the sliding plates and the mounting plates in together. That way you're not lifting up your tent twice to get them over your crossbars. Ready?
Yep.
So after you lift it over your crossbars, we're gonna slide one of them all the way down to the second crossbar. And we're gonna keep the first one up against the first crossbar. Next, on each side, we're just gonna enter in this slider plate with the bolt. And we're going to take off this nut and slide it through the skinniest hole and just finger tighten on this nut.
All right, after you already got your plate on and your nuts on, go ahead and center the plate around the crossbar on your vehicle. Go ahead and grab your 13mm ratcheting wrench that comes in your kit, and go ahead and put a little bit of downward pressure on the plate. And go ahead and tighten that up until it gets up a little bit on each side, and then go ahead and center it out, and then just tighten it until the plate just barely gets a little bit of curve into it, but don't over tighten it to where the bar is really curved. It's very important to make sure that's not over tightened. All right, now that it's nice and snug, you can see that the plate just has a very little bend to it, and that's how exactly every corner should look. Go ahead and do the exact same thing to the other 3 corners of the tent, and once you have them all like that, then you're ready to open your tent.
So now that we have mounted the tent onto the rails and the crossbars, we're gonna go ahead and open it up. So you gotta go ahead and undo the side straps. Next step, you're gonna extend out the ladder. step is we're gonna go ahead and fully adjust this telescoping ladder so that it fits to the height of the tent. By doing that, we're gonna go ahead and squeeze these two black nubs in with our thumbs and slide it up. So now that we have the ladder set at a 30-35 degree angle, we're gonna make sure that each step is locked into place. And next we will have Jared demonstrate how to pull out the extension bar.
All right, so now the next step is we're gonna set out the extension on the Shasta. So the first thing you wanna do is go ahead and remove the U-bar completely the first time and remove the plastic end caps. The next thing you want to do is flip out these corners right here. This is where the U-bar will attach onto it. And you just pull the fabric out, tuck it up into the upper corners, and go ahead and insert the U-bar onto the front corners. After that is done, you just want to make sure your rain fly is nice and pulled over the front edge. All right, the next step is installing the spreader bar above the door. You'll notice right in the center, there's a hole cut out for the spreader bar to go through. You want to make sure you reach inside and hold the bar as you press the C-clip onto it, so that way you do not bend the aluminum internal structure. And then go ahead and do the opposite side over here. I usually stick it off to the side and then drag it towards me, and then go ahead and pull up on the back side of the bar, and then you're good to go. All right, so the next step is adjusting your rain fly. So on this front edge, you want to make sure that your rain fly is not so tight that it's pulling the fabric up, but it's not loose and bulging out. So what you want to do is unclip the buckle, feed some slack back through it, and then find that spot where it's nice but not bulging out.
So the next step that you're gonna do is you're gonna walk around to the back corners and you're gonna pull down this fabric to cover up the zipper. And then you're gonna come over here and you're gonna notice that sometimes the fabric will get caught around this bolt. So you're just gonna pull it around and make sure that it closes up a bit. And then we'll go ahead and Velcro down this flap. And then the next step, we'll go ahead and demonstrate how to put in your spring rods. So first we're gonna go ahead and undo the toggles. There's two of them on each side of the windows. You're gonna go ahead and find the slit where the spring rod actually goes inside. There's this hole right here. Grab the spring rod. There's two different ways of putting in the spring rod. First, if your tent is low, like how this guy is, you can go ahead and put the spring rod in and then bend up and put it into the loop. The second way that you can do it is if your vehicle's up higher, you can actually put the loop in through the toggle hole first, bend it so you're taking off the tension, and push it in until you hear the spring rod hit the back of the frame. Now we're gonna go ahead and demonstrate putting the spring rods in the back part of the rain fly. So we can actually go ahead and find that slit and put the spring rod in properly. Remember, it's at an angle, so you're gonna have to find it, make sure it hits the back part of the frame. Gotta bend up and insert it through the toggle hole. We're gonna do the same for the other side. Now your mount Shasta is completely set up.
All right, so now we're gonna go ahead and close up the tent. First thing you do is go ahead and go around to all three sides, remove all your spring rods, and retoggle down the corners. All right, so after we're done removing all the spring rods, we're gonna go ahead and remove the spreader bar and then remove the U-bar and slide it back under the mattress. And at this point, the next step is to go ahead and grab your ladder. And you're just gonna go ahead and push straight up on it and walk the tent back to close. After it's in this position, you're gonna go ahead and go around, lift up on the tent, and tuck every layer in as best as you can. It doesn't have to be perfect, but you do want the fabric tucked in away from this lower zipper. Once your fabric is all tucked in, You're gonna go ahead and use the straps around the tent to hold the fabric back. On the open end of the tent, go ahead and feed your strap through. Use the tent to pull down and take the slack out. So once the tent is all cinched shut, you want to go ahead and shrink your ladder back down. You're going to go ahead and depress the black toggles on every step until the feet of your ladder reach beyond the edge of the tent. Once it's like that, you go ahead and install your cover now. So the next step is installing the edge of the cover. So what you want to do is you want to take the side that has the printed CVT on it, face it towards your vehicle, and then you're going to take the little bead and feed it into the lower channel of the tent. You do want to pull it and guide it at the same time, so that way it doesn't get pinched into the channel. Once you have it in place, what you're going to do is go ahead and open it up and go ahead and toss it over the top. So once your cover is flipped over, what we do is we roll this outer corner up so that way the zipper is exposed. It gives you a handle and you're not dragging this zipper over this hard plastic corner every time you pull the cover down. So you just reach in here, grab it, pull it down, and then you're going to leave it rolled up because it's going to help also zipping and unzipping the corners when you have the cover. And then if you have any fabric hanging down below the cover, go ahead and tuck those up underneath. And then you go ahead and start the zipper. So when you go to start the zipper, you want to go ahead and unvelcro the corner. You want to reach up inside. There is an extra flap that you roll down to cover up this corner once the two pieces are together. So once that's down, go ahead and get your zipper started. You just make sure it's all the way completely set, and then go ahead and start zipping around. I usually flip up the outer corners to help zip so the zipper rolls around the corner a lot easier. Once it's all completely zipped, go ahead and pull the corner up so it's nice and square. Make sure your cover is pulled nice and tight around the corners. And then after it's completely zipped up here, you also want to come around, make sure your flap is flipped down all the way around. That way, when weather and stuff hits the tent when you're driving, it's going to roll down off of it rather than fly straight into the zipper. After that, go ahead and throw your cover straps over. What I like to do is hold them, get it nice and flat, and then you're going to go ahead and just throw it like a dart. Keep it nice and low. Usually it's flat and goes all the way across. So once your straps are over, go ahead and depress the button on the top of the buckle. Feed your strap through the back of the buckle, and then just go ahead and pull out the slack. You don't need to pull very hard. You just want it to where there's some tension on it, but not super tight. And then go ahead and take your leftover strap, feed it back through the top of the buckle, pull it back behind so that way it's not flapping around in the wind.
So this completes our Mount Shasta Extended Summit Line tutorial. If you have any more questions, feel free and give us a call.
And welcome to the CVT family.